How do? And welcome to Talking Paranormal with the Old Man. And as usual, I am the old man. Today we're going to do things a little differently. Um, I'm not going to be reacting to a video. I'm sure people are saying, "Oh, fucking A, man!" Yeah. Um, May 18th, which was Monday, this past Monday, was the 99th anniversary of the Bath School bombing. Happened in a small town in Bath. I'm from mid Michigan and from Lansing. It's about 20 minutes northeast of of town. Small community. So what happened was, I guess, let's start from, I guess. And I've been going back and forth all day. Should I do this? Should I not do this? There's a lot of false information out there. I'm no expert by any means. I do not like at all, the paranormal expert tag, because no one's an expert. No one knows everything. And the same thing about Bath is one person does not know everything there is to know about Bath. What I keep on hitting this fucking desk. What happened in Bath? Okay, so but I know more than the average person knows. We have visited, not to be morbid, we have visited every grave of the victims to show our respect to them. Um, yeah, so basically, on May 18th, 1927, a gentleman named Andrew Kehoe, he basically destroyed part of the school in Bath. Back then, I was trying to think, how I want to lay this out. Um, Back in the day, like in the early 20s or so, like a lot of smaller communities, they had a lot of one-room country schools all through the area. Well, they decided, I don't know the exact date. I think it was 2022, 23, maybe 20, early 20s. Let's just put it that way. Um, he or the town of Bath decided to build a consolidated school in Bath, and that would have covered kindergarten through 12th grade. So instead of having them scattered all through the countryside, we're going to have one big school in town. And it's, if you come down Clark Road into Bath, Main Street is the first street, then Webster is at the four-way stop. So the school was between Maine and Webster. I found this out later that it was closer to Webster than it was Maine. I thought it was the other way around. So the school was laid out north, facing north, and then facing south. There was an older woman's house to the northwest of the school on the same, the same land, and then there was a church behind it to the south. The church is still standing today, and when they did this, I'm doing the condensed version because it's not as easy as this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. It's not that simple, but I could be here for hours doing this, the long version. So I'm going to try to do the condensed version. So they decided, like I said, to build this consolidated school. And of course, the property taxes had to be raised up or risen, had to be increased, to help pay for the school. Well, the above mentioned Andrew Kehoe, he lived about a mile or so outside of town on Clark and Watson. The house is gone now. So Clark is like this, Watson is like this. Clark runs east and west, Watson north and south. So so basically, here's Clark, here's Watson. His house was over here, and he had like it was a, and I actually have, just before we continue here, I do have some books that let me move my own man glasses here. This book here is the main book. Okay. And this book is cool. I mean, not cool, but it has pictures of the victims, what they like. Like here's some pictures right here of the kids. You know what they liked and stuff like that. This was Kehoe's house. Okay, it was a three-story house. It was the only house in town that had hot water on all three floors. He was a farmer. His wife, her uncle was Lawrence Price. He was a war hero. He was in politics. I don't remember if he was a senator or a House of Representatives. I'm not for sure. I think he was a senator, and he actually owned the house. So when they raised the taxes, Andrew Kehoe thought that he was going to lose the house. He fell behind on the taxes. Well, he was the school treasurer at one time. He ran for reelection. He lost. That kind of pissed him off. So that kind of set things going. And this guy right here, I believe it's this guy right here, or maybe it's the other guy. I don't remember. Actually, just give me 1 second. I'm trying to read this here. Yeah, I don't think that this one, I think it's, no, no, you know what? It had to be the other one. It had to be the other one. Yeah, it had to be the other one. So this is the one was written by M.J. Ellsworth, and he lived, I think he said like a half of a rod to the west of Kehoe's house. So he lived, so he knew Kehoe. Back in the day, it was not uncommon. Um, this was right after World War One, and it was not uncommon to, oh, I'm sorry, Uncle Sam would give local farmers TNT to experiment with clearing stumps off of land. So what the theory is, if you have more land that you can plant crops on, the more money you'll get, the more food will be produced. So it was not uncommon for Mr. Ellsworth here to hear explosions coming from Kehoe's farm because Kehoe was practicing using TNT with timers. He used watches as timers. And it was not uncommon to hear explosions going off on Kehoe's farm because he was, clearing land. Well, so after he lost re-election for, I guess, school treasurer, I guess, he uh, he went off the deep end. Like I said, he thought that he was going to lose the farm, but actually years later, I actually not even years later, right, like a couple months later, Lawrence Price even came out and said, "I would not have evicted him. My niece lived on this land too, or this house too. I would not have evicted them." So Kehoe had it in his head that this was, he was going to, lose the house because of this. And the superintendent at the time was Emery Hayek. I've also heard it pronounced Huck or Hayek. I prefer it Hayek because it is Hyuck, Hayek. Okay, so I will pronounce it Hayek. Other people have said Huck, but I will pronounce it Hayek. So Emery Hayek was the superintendent of the schools, and him and Andrew Kehoe were at odds over everything. If Emery wanted to hire a new teacher, Kehoe, no, I don't want her hired or him hired. If Emery wanted to give the teachers more time off, vacation in the summertime, uh, Kehoe said no. So they were always at odds. I mean, it wasn't anything, at the point violent, but it was, I don't know what you want to call it. They were not enemies, they were cordial, but they did not get along. Okay. So his wife was sick and they could not figure out what was wrong with her. So she was back and forth from the hospital like regularly. And and they thought it was, I think they thought it was TB, but they weren't really sure that it was TB. So basically, she was back and forth in the hospital all the time. Well, after Kehoe had lost the reelection for treasury or treasurer, I guess, he volunteered. Well, they were looking, and by they, the school, Bath schools, were looking for a handyman to help with a handyman, right? So they hired him as a handyman, not knowing what was going to happen. Okay, so the older woman, and I do have it. Let me just go grab it real fast. Again, I'm like no expert or anything, but this is the coroner's inquest. This is the inquest that they did after the school bombing, and in this, the older woman that lived a little bit like yards away from the school, she said in the inquest that she's, and back then they called their trucks machines, not truck. He had a 27 or 25, I think it's a 25, a 1925 Ford. Okay. So she, was it under oath, I guess, of the coroner's inquest? She said that she saw Kehoe at night regularly park his machine up up by the front doors of the school and unload stuff. Well, because he was the handyman, she thought he was bringing in, you know, parts for the, the boiler, parts for the water fountains, parts for this, parts for that. But no, what he was doing is he was bringing in TNT. And what he did, I mean, it has you have to give him some kind of credit. Okay, yes, he was a madman. He did, bad shit, but the way he thought, he put TNT on pieces of gutter and pushed the pieces of gutter behind in the basement, behind the boiler, so nobody could see it. He would put it on the gutter and hide it in other places of the basement where you could not find it. And he used watches as timing devices. Okay. So he was basically setting the stage for this. And just really quick too, before I get off topic, here's a couple other books too. Um, and in case you were wondering, paranormal investigator. Yeah, well, yeah, okay. I am official a Ghostbusters paranormal investigator. That makes it official. Ooh, yeah, I know, right? Mayday. This was written about the actual events. It doesn't have any pictures. It is a good read. It is a good read. It's just about the events. Okay. And then there was a Gene Wilkinson. He was the um, the town historian, and me and him went back a lot. I mean, we went back and forth emails and stuff. This was his book that he put out. Okay. There is a Bath School bombing museum in the middle school that's open. They have some artifacts and stuff that's really cool. Um, so so here is some of the Bath early schools. How they had the one room schools, and that's what they had back in the day. Okay. And so after he planted all of his TNT and stuff, and I just found this out. Well, let me go back a little bit. So on the day of May 18th, he killed his wife, and they didn't find her body for I think a couple of days, but he had put her in a wheelbarrow with a tarp over her. So he basically set fire to his house. He set fire to his barns. He set fire to all of his farming equipment, which, by the way, if he would have sold all of his farming equipment, it would have been enough to pay the back taxes. But he didn't want anybody to have anything of his. So burn the shit down, right? He tied the legs of his horses together so they wouldn't make it either. Okay. Well, when smoke started rising up west of town off of Clark Road, all the townsfolks and there was some I think railroad people working on the railroad lines, I believe, or maybe it's power lines. I don't remember for sure. And they all came to his house. Well, when they all started going to his house, then all of a sudden there was an explosion in town. Okay, so they all think, "Oh shit!" They all stopped and went back into town. Now here's where the confusion starts. Is some people said it was 9:45. Some people said it was 8:45. Well, I just found again. See, a expert knows everything there is to know about this shit, right? I just learned a couple years ago that it was up to each area if they wanted to be Central Time or Eastern Time. Yeah, I just found this out a couple years ago. I was reading a interview. So depending if it was Eastern Time, it was 9:45. If it was Eastern Time, it was 8. I'm sorry. If it was Eastern Time, 9:45. Eastern Time, God, Eastern Time, dumb. Central Time was 8:45. So it could be either one. I keep on hitting this fucking desk. Either one. Okay. So it's either 8:45 Central, 9:45 Eastern. Okay. Pandemonium. Okay. When the rescuers got there, and again, I am prepared, but I have to show pictures. So this was the school. My aunt sent this to me, and I didn't even know this was even a picture. That was the school after the school bombing went off. Okay. The cupola, which is this, which is right here where my finger's at, that is still there. That is in the central part of the park. So this is the north wing right here. That was the only thing that was destroyed. Okay. I think there's a picture before it was blown up. I think there was. Let me see if I can find it real fast. And again, I know I'm not really prepared where the pictures are at. But and here's one other one too, a picture of this right there. And I did come across one, and like I said, I'll post it to my Facebook page. Um, an aerial picture that I did not know. See, I did not know existed until just like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So here's the school looked like after or before it got blown up, right there. Okay, so after after the school blew up, everyone went back into town. Okay, Keyhole leaves his house, and basically he did a mile. Okay, he went on Clark as his house was on Clark, or what was left of his house is on Clark. Okay, he went down Clark Main Street, drove by real slow. Holy shit! Only half the school is blown up. He kept on going north to Slight Street, or I guess road. He turned left, went another couple miles out to Chandler, turned left on Chandler, went back down to Clark, turned left onto Clark to come back into town. Now, I would suspect that at this point, because he had time to to think. I think he was thinking what he wanted to do. I don't know for a fact. Like I said, I don't know. I'm not claiming that I know, but that's what I'm thinking. So when he came back into town, he parked right in front of the school. Okay, he pulled in the grass in front of the school. Okay, with his machine. In front of him was Emery Hayek, the superintendent, Glenn Smith, the postmaster, Glenn McFerrin, a farmer who was helping out with the recovery efforts, and a child who had survived the original blast. Okay, he calls them all over. You have to. There's pandemonium, dudes. There's pandemoniums. There's shit going on. Pandemonium. So he calls them over. He sees Kehoe. He calls him over. Everybody comes over. Like I said, Emery Hayek comes over. The student, the postmaster, and the retired farmer all come over. When they were within a few feet of his machine, he blows them up. Okay. I've heard two stories how he accomplished this. The first one was he had what it is a well-known fact or a well-known um, accepted fact that he had shrapnel, pieces of metal, nails, screws in the back of his machine. I've heard two reasons how or ways that he exploded himself. I heard that he had a push button on his actual dashboard, push button, and that caused it to blow up. Another thing I heard is he had a shotgun. He reached around and shot into the back of his machine and exploded. Okay. Yeah, there is a picture. Let me find it real fast. At least I think it was in this book. I'm pretty sure it was. Because the other book did not have shit for pictures. Um, so here are some more pictures of the school. Okay. See, everything I've seen does not show this shit. So that's why I wanted to make this little video. Not to set things straight per se, but to I guess tell the story, I guess. Um God, I don't see the picture. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm trying to find the picture of his truck. Was it in this book, maybe? Maybe in this book. This book here by Gene Wilkinson or Wilkins, it has a lot of pictures that I had not ever seen before. Okay, so here is the top is the remaining of Kehoe's pickup machine. Yeah, so that is what's left of Kehoe's truck. That's it, man. You got a fucking wheel, a fender, maybe a little bit of the inside, and that's it, dude. That's all that is left. And the only reason why they knew it was him, and you have to realize this is right after World War One. The townspeople actually thought the Germans. I mean, check this shit out. This is how whacked this was. The people thought that that Germans or Germany had actually planted TNT on the power lines, and that's what was going off. So the only reason, like I said, the only reason why they found Kehoe or knew it was Kehoe, his what was left of his body is was over across the street in a person's a garden behind the house. The only reason why they knew who it was, his identification was still in his wallet in his back pocket. That's the only reason why. Now his wife is buried in Mount Hope Cemetery in Lansing. His, her family didn't want anything to do with Kehoe at all. Kehoe was buried in a pauper's unmarked grave in St. John's. I know where it's at. Like I said, I visited all the graves, and Glenn Glenn Smith, he passed away on the street in front of the school, and I do have a picture of him. Yes, I think I do. I'm pretty sure I do. I'm pretty sure I do. That would be over here. Yes. Okay. Okay. Well, let's do. Let's see. Yes. I thought they'd have them in order, but no. So this is Glenn Smith. He was the postmaster. Cute guy. The superintendent. I'm sorry. Nelson McFerrin, he was the retired farmer. That's him right there. Okay. Emery Hayek is right there. I mean, yeah, right there. That's Emery. God, I can never figure out this fucking camera. So there's Emery right there. And one of the teachers, well, here's Blanche Hart. She's buried in. I'm sorry. Emery Hayek is buried in Carson City beside his wife. Nelson McFerrin and Glenn Smith are buried in Bath off of Webster Road. We're and the only reason why I'm doing this we're going there Saturday for an investigation in the park where the school was at and the cemetery. We've been there many times. Always get stuff. So if you're in Michigan in Bath on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday between 8 and midnight, come and join us. This is Blanche Hart. She was a teacher. She is buried in DeWitt. And this is Hazel Weatherby. She was 21 years old. She was found with two children, both deceased, underneath her arms in the rubble. And she was buried, I always get this right, I want to say it's Alba, Michigan. That's an hour and a half from here in Lansing. So, and unfortunately, St. Glenn Smith passed away, Glenn O. Smith, Emery Hayek passed away, Mr. McFerrin passed away, and the student, and this is what pisses me off about people like this, is I've read accounts where like, oh, and there was a student who made it through the bombing, but he was killed when. Okay, know his fucking name. Okay, this is about the victims. This isn't about some half-ass story to put out there. The student's name was Cleo Clayton. He was, I believe, 11 years old when he passed away. So, yeah. So that's basically in a nutshell. And there was a sign that they had found. Let me find it real fast. There was a sign that they had found on Kehoe's farm. And I know I just saw that picture a second ago. Oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, oh, yeah. I got it right here. I had not ever seen this picture before. It's an aerial picture. I don't know where the hell I got it, but this is the aerial, and they didn't have drones back then, right? This was in 27. So I don't know what they used. The balloon, I don't know. So here is the scene right there. Here's the school, obviously. This back here is Webster Road. That is Webster Road back there. Main Street is right here in the front. Okay. The church is still standing back here. And then here is the sidewalk that leads up to the front of the school. See, I always thought it was more towards Main, more towards this way, but it actually was more towards Webster. And you can see just the north part of the school was blown up right here. There were some pine trees over here in the corner. See if I can find it here. Over here in the corner, over here. And for a long time, there was pieces of cement that had been blown from the school over there. And just until recently, they took them away. And I don't understand why they took them away. So let me see if I can find that picture. I just ran across this a second ago. It was a sign, and I'm hoping I can find it really fast. I don't want to be sitting here like, playing with myself, trying to find it. I just saw the goddamn thing a second ago. Right here. So there was a sign that they found on Kehoe's farm on his fence, right here. Criminals are made, not born. So he's basically implying that they made him do what they did, or what he did. So the total count at the end was 45 people were killed by Kehoe, and that is including Kehoe, the adults, the teachers. 38 were children under 14. So yeah, that in a nutshell is what happened. Dude, I could go on forever. There's a lot more to it. He was a suspect in his stepmom's death back in he was a kid in Tecumseh. Uh, the pets, family pets that ended up missing and ended up turning up dead. They thought he had killed them. So yeah. So well, I was going to say something at the end, but I forgot what the fuck I was going to say. And that was a good lead out too, but I forgot what it was. Um, oh shit. Gosh darn it. Hmm, I forgot what it was. I forgot what I was going to end this with. Gosh darn it. Anyways, it'll come to me about 5 minutes after I'm done with this video. It will come to me and it'll be like, oh. Okay. I do library presentations, and this was before COVID. We were getting ready to go overseas, so it was in October of 2019, and I did a presentation in Tecumseh, and that's where Kehoe was from. And eh, my presentation is about an hour and a half, and I do, it's a PowerPoint. We do videos and audio and pictures of our investigations we have done in the past, and then we always have people that come up, want to share pictures and stories, which is fine. Can you tell me what this is? Oh yeah, this is this, whatever. And I had one woman come up and she goes, "Do you know why you're so intrigued with Bath?" I'm like, "Nah, not really." And she goes, "Because you were there." And I'm like, "What?" Doing my best minion impersonation, right? What? And she goes, "Yeah, you were there. You were a kid there and you were killed in Bath." So she was implying that I was reincarnated. And I'm like, "Okay, thank you very much." And she walks away. And I didn't think like, "How do you know this?" But she said that you were Robert. I'm like, "Well, there was two Roberts. There was Robert Hart and Robert somebody else. I can't remember off the top of my head." And she goes, I go, "One was about 9 and one was like 12 or 13." She goes, "You were the older one. So that would be Robert Hart." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. Thank you." Kind of thing. So yeah, so supposedly I was a student. I was Robert Hart in Bath when the school got blown up. And that's why I have an interest in Bath. So I again, I was if you like this, please like and subscribe. Um, yeah, I was on the fence about doing this. I really was. Um, but I thought it was appropriate because it did get some attention, and I know here in mid Michigan it got attention. It was on the Free Press and Detroit News and the Lansing State Journal, stuff like that. And it was Monday, and we're doing the investigation there on Saturday. So I figured this would be a good time to talk about it, I guess. Yeah. So again, if you like this, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to ask. I have a lot of, like I said, this was the condensed short version. I could go on for about a good couple hours about what happened in Bath to properly give it its due. So again, we are going to Bath this Saturday. It's Memorial Day weekend. I totally fucking forgot. From 8 to midnight. If you're in the area, stop on in. Uh, if you want to go to our Facebook page, our group is I've been an investigator, paranormal investigator for 30 years. I've written 6 books, been on TV once, DVD once. Our group is Southeast Michigan Ghost Hunter Society. Anything that is on there as far as open investigations will be posted on our Facebook page. We are doing Randolph County in Winchester, Indiana on July 18th. It's the Randolph County Asylum. That does cost $63, but that goes to them, does not go to us. We had to pay ourselves. So, okay. I'm glad I did this. I thought it had to be done. I am, and I know what you're going to say when I say this. I am right. I'm going to start writing a book about Bath, but it's going to be a little bit more to honor. It's not going to be anything paranormal whatsoever. It's going to be honoring the victims and telling the story, I guess. Um, so I haven't started that yet. I've been talking about it for years, but I think it's time to write about Bath. So I hope you like this. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. If you want to go to our Facebook page, email me by all means. I'll be happy to answer the questions if I can. So until we meet again, like I said, I hope you enjoyed hearing about Bath. It's sad, but I think it needed to be said. So again, thank you for waiting until the end. And this is a little bit different. On Saturday, there will be a new paranormal reaction to videos. I promise you that. So until we meet again, bye bye.